We will start koolNews at 4 in a few moments. Okay, 4 o'clock. Go.
You are listening to Cool FM, live from Cool Studios. This is Cool News at 4.
Good afternoon and welcome to koolNews at 4. We are currently on the limited operations on Cool FM as we speak right now, as our internet is currently down, so we are doing this in limited scale in the meantime. My name is Cairo, and now let's get into the headlines. The World Health Organization declared the Mpox outbreaks in Congo and elsewhere in Africa a global emergency on Wednesday, with cases confirmed among children and adults in more than 1,000 countries and a new form of the virus spreading. Few vaccine doses are available on the continent. Early this week, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced that the Mpox outbreaks were a public health emergency with more than 500 deaths and called for international help to stop the virus spread. This is something that should concern us all. The potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying, said WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. The Africa CDC previously said Mpox, also known as monkeypox, has been detected in 13 countries this year, and more than 96% of all cases and deaths are in Congo. Cases are up 160% and deaths are up 19% compared with the same period last year. So far, there have been more than 14,000 cases and 524 people have died. We are now in a situation where Mpox poses a risk to many more neighbors in and around Central Africa, said Salim Abdul Karim, a South African infectious disease expert who chairs the Africa CDC Emergency Group. He said the new version of Mpox spreading from Congo appears to have a death rate of about 3 to 4%. In 2022, WHO declared Mpox to be a global emergency after it spread to more than 70 countries that had not previously reported Mpox, mostly affecting gay and bisexual men. In that outbreak, fewer than 1% of people died. Michael Marks, a professor of medicine at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, said declaring these latest Mpox outbreaks in Africa an emergency is warranted if that might lead to more support to contain them. It's a failure of the global community that things had to get this bad to release the resources needed, he said. Officials at the Africa CDC said nearly 70% of cases in Congo are in children younger than 15, who also accounted for 85% of deaths. Jacques Alunda, an epidemiologist working in Congo with international charities, said he and other experts were particularly worried about the spread of Mpox in camps for refugees in the country's conflict-ridden east. The worst case I have seen is that of the 6-week-old baby who was just 2 weeks old when he contracted Mpox, Alunda said, adding that the baby has been in care for a month. He got infected because the hospital overcrowding meant he and his mother were forced to share a room with someone else who had the virus, which was undiagnosed. Save the Children said Congo's health system had already been collapsing under the strain of malnutrition, malaise, and cholera. The UN health emergency said Mpox was recently identified for the first time in 4 East African countries: Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uruguay. All of those outbreaks are linked to the one in Congo. In Ivory Coast and South Africa, health authorities have reported outbreaks of a different and less dangerous version of Mpox that spread worldwide in 2022. Early this year, scientists reported the emergence of a new form of the deadlier form of Mpox, which can kill up to 10% of people in the Congolese mining town that they feared might spread more easily. Mpox mostly spreads via close contact with infected people, including through sex. Unlike in previous Mpox outbreaks, where lesions were mostly seen on the chest, hands, and feet, the new form causes milder symptoms and lesions on the genitals. That makes it harder to spot, meaning people might also sicken others without knowing they're affected. Before the 2022 outbreak, the disease had mostly been seen in sporadic outbreaks in Central and West Africa when people came into close contact with infected wild animals. Western countries during the 2022 outbreak mostly shut down the spread of mpox with the help of vaccines and treatments, but very few of those have been available in Africa. Marks of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine said that in the absence of mpox vaccines licensed in the West, officials could consider inoculating people against smallpox, a related disease. We need a large supply of vaccines so that we can vaccinate populations most at risk, he said, adding that would mean sex workers, children, and adults living in outbreak regions. Congo hasn't received any of the mpox vaccines it has requested. Congolese authorities said they have asked for 4 million doses. Chris Katsita Osako, coordinator of Congo's monkeypox response committee, told the Associated Press. Katsita Osako said those would mostly be used for children under 18. The United States and Japan are the two countries that positioned themselves to give vaccines to our country, Katsita Osako said. Dr. Dimi Ogoina, a Nigerian mpox expert who WHO's emergency committee said there were significant gaps in understanding how mpox is spreading in Africa. He called for stronger evidence to track the outbreaks. We're working blindly when we were not able to test all suspected cases, Ogoina said. Although WHO's emergency declaration is meant to support donor agencies and countries into action, the global response to previous declarations has been mixed. Dr. Bokhuma Titanji, an infectious disease expert at Emory University, said the last WHO emergency declaration for mpox did very little to move the needle on getting things like diagnostic tests, medicines, and vaccines to Africa. The world has a real opportunity here to act in the decisive matter and not repeat past mistakes, but that will take more than an emergency declaration, Titanji said. Now, as we get into the national headlines, more than 300,000 pesos worth of shabu crystal meth were seized on Wednesday from 4 drug suspects in Rizal Province, police said Thursday. The Police Regional Office 4A said in the report that anti-illegal drugs operators felt for the Lin in a bypass operation in Barangay San Isidro in Kaita town around 3 p.m. Seized from the suspect were 6 sachets containing shabu weighing 25 grams with an estimated dangerous drugs board value of 170,000 pesos. The cops also confiscated 1 gram of marijuana leaves and drug paraphernalia. Police tagged the suspect as a high-value individual in its drug watch list. In Rodriguez Town, policemen also busted Charce, Honorio, and J. Hun in the village of San Isidro at 10:15 p.m. The suspects yielded 10 sachets of meth with a DDB value of 136,000 pesos. The police also confiscated a motorcycle believed to have been used by the suspects in their illegal drug trade. Police were tracking the source of the illegal drugs. All suspects were detained and are facing charges of violating the Comprehensive Dangerous Acts of 2002. With the government's food threshold, Imelda Mendez, age 42, who spends 25 pesos for her lunch, a cup of rice, and a vending of vegetables, is not considered poor. Back in 2022, the Philippine Statistics Authority said the food threshold for a family of 5 in 2021 was 8,379 pesos, indicating that the government won't classify you as food poor if you spend more than 18.62 pesos per meal. This could mean 2 pieces of pandesal, a cup of coffee, and a glass of milk for breakfast, a cup of rice, a blend of vegetables or 15 grams of meat or fish for lunch, and a cup of rice, powdered broth, and a blend of vegetables for dinner. Over 2 years later, while the food threshold was already hiked, based on data from the National Economic and Development Authority, the said standard is still low at 64 pesos a day or 21.33 pesos for every meal. Almost 20 million Filipinos were considered poor in 2021 as poverty incidence rose to 18.1% from 16.7%, 17.67 million pesos in 2018. Based on initial PSA data, poverty incidence fell to 15.5% in 2023, or 17.54 million poor Filipinos. The poverty threshold in 2023, which is the minimum income that a family of five needs to meet basic food and non-food needs, was set at 30,873 pesos, higher than the 12,030 pesos in 2021 and 10,756 pesos in 2018. But as the tank, but as the think tank Ipon Foundation said in 2019, the way the government counts the poor grossly underestimates poverty in the Philippines, stressing that many poor Filipinos are left out of data. The full threshold of 8,379 pesos in 2021 was higher than 7,553 pesos in 2018. Last year's full threshold, which is the minimum income that a family of five needs to meet basic food requirements, was 9,581 pesos. This leaves a household some 4,202 pesos for basic non-food needs, clothing, housing, light, water, rental of dwelling units, medical care, education, transportation and communication, household operations, and personal care. Okay, it is now 4:11 in the afternoon, and we will have more headlines coming up right here on koolNews at 4. So stick around, we will be right back. Alright, time check. It is now 4:19 and cool news at 4 will return in 1 minute. 4:20, cool news at 4 will return now. Welcome back to Cool News at 4. Let's continue with the headlines. The National Bureau of Investigation (NBI) arrested a man allegedly peddling the services of young women to clients using social media messaging applications. Paulo Kaya Dong Jr., also known as Prince Joy Tolanting, age 23, was caught in an entrapment operation Monday in a hotel in Bulatok village in the city, which is Bagadian City, peddling the sexual services of young women for money ranging from 1,000 to 2,000 pesos. According to NBI Pagadian investigator Leonardo Carpizo, the women, aged 18 and 22 years, respectively, have been turned over to the city Social Welfare and Development Office. Carpizo said the victims happened to be of legal age, but the informant who tipped them about Katayong's operation said that he also recruited the services of minors. He added that Kayadong's modus operandi involved contacting customers through social media messaging applications, sending photos of women he recruited, and later bringing the women to these clients. Kayadong, a resident of Napolan village here, said he got a 30% commission for each of the women he peddled to his clients. He also said he had been doing it since 2019. Carpizo said he had confirmed that Kayadong had photos of women on his phone, which he sent to possible clients. We are trying to disrupt this act. Due to the vulnerability of these women because of poverty, they were taken advantage of by traffickers, Carpizo said. Kayadong is now facing charges of violating Section 4A of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003 as amended. We have to put an end to human trafficking or modern-day slavery by immediately alerting us of these cases happening in our area, Carpizo said. And now, as we get into the headlines from around the world, a Beijing-based North Korea tour operator expressed hopes of fresh business on Thursday, following an unexpected announcement that the country would reopen to foreign tourists this winter. Korea tourists said on Wednesday they have received notice from isolated North Korea that tourism to the northeastern city of TGON would resume in December after nearly 5 years of COVID-triggered closure. Our initial reaction is positive, of course. It's been a long wait, Korea Tours General Manager Simon Cockerell told AFP on Thursday. Demand has been strong throughout the closure, so I would expect a decent rebound in business, he said, adding there are a lot of folks who have been anxious and keen to visit nuclear-armed North Korea since the pandemic. KGG Tours, also based in China, said on its Facebook page Wednesday that it had been told tourists will be able to go to Samjiyon Mountain Pet-2 area this winter. Exact dates to be confirmed. So far, just Samjiyon has been officially confirmed that, but we think that Pyongyang and other places will open too, it said. Samjiyon, near North Korea's mountainous northern border with China, is a gateway to Mount Pet-2, where official narratives say the late Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il was born. His son and successor Kim Jong-un has poured huge resources into developing the area with a vast project including new apartments, hotels, and ski resort. North Korean state media had not mentioned the reopening of the border by mid-afternoon on Thursday. Cockerell told AFP that opening up to tourists in a bitterly cold, remote area in December was unexpected, but a positive step for sure. Doing it in a Fort Noy in the middle of winter is idiosyncratic, but the DPRK is nothing if not an idiosyncratic place, he said during the official ceremony for North Korea. For our company, it hopefully means we can start to fulfill our mandate again, which is to offer as many people the chance to go there as possible to increase engagement and interaction. North Korea sealed up its borders in early 2020 to protect itself from COVID-19, with even its own nationals prevented from entering for years. But signs of reopening began in the second half of 2023, with the resumption of international flights allowing stranded nationals to finally return home. A group of Russian tourists visited in February 2024, at the time when ties between Moscow and Pyongyang were growing closer. Tourism to the north was limited before the pandemic, with tour companies saying around 5,000 Western tourists visited each year. U.S. citizens made up about 20% of the market before Washington banned travel following the imprisonment and subsequent death of American student Otto Warmbier. I would caution against overinterpreting this opening, Cockrell said. It's not necessarily a message to the world or anything like that. It's just a slow and small initial opening to restabilize an industry that existed for decades previously. Koyo Toys warned on its website that after a hiatus of almost 5 years, the early days of the tourism restart may not go smoothly. For those hoping to visit on one of the sooner tours, we would like to emphasize that things may be a little more chaotic than usual, it said. But Cockrell remains optimistic. This is finally a positive piece of news, hopefully to be followed by more of the same, he said. And now, getting to the tech industry, Cisco Systems is planning to lay off 7% of its employees, its second round of job cuts this year, as the company shifts its focus to more rapidly growing areas in technology, such as artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The company based in San Jose, California, did not specify the number of jobs it is cutting. It had 84,900 employees as of July 2023. Based on that figure, the number of jobs cut would be about 5,900. In February, Cisco announced it would cut about 4,000 jobs. The networking equipment maker said in June that it would invest $1 billion in tech startups like Cohere, Mistral, and Scale to develop reliable AI products. It recently also announced a partnership with NVIDIA to develop infrastructure for AI systems. Cisco's layoffs come just 2 weeks after chipmaker Intel Corporation announced it would cut about 15,000 jobs as it tries to turn its business around to compete with more successful rivals like NVIDIA and AMD. Intel's quarterly earnings report disappointed investors and its stock took a nosedive following the announcement. In contrast, Cisco's shares were up about 6% after hours on Wednesday. In a foray into cybersecurity, Cisco launched a cybersecurity readiness index back in March to help businesses measure their resiliency against attacks. Cisco Systems Incorporated Wednesday, it earned $2.16 billion or 54 cents per share in its fiscal fourth quarter that ended on July 27, down 45% from $3.96 billion or 97 cents per share in the same period a year ago. Excluding special items, its adjusted earnings were 87 cents per share in the latest quarter. Revenue fell 10% to $13.64 billion from $15.2 billion. Analysts on average were expecting adjusted earnings of 85 cents per share on revenue of $13.54 billion, according to a poll by FactSet. For the current quarter, Cisco is forecasting adjusted earnings of 68 cents to 88 cents per share on revenue of $13.65 billion to $13.85 billion. Analysts are expecting earnings of 85 cents per share on revenue of $30.74 billion. Edward Jones, David Hager said Cisco is starting to see demand recover up to its low over the last quarters, noting that product orders were up 6% even when excluding those from its recent acquisition of cybersecurity firm Splunk. He added that the restructuring will help offset the earnings impact from interest expenses associated with financing the Splunk acquisition and rationalize combined workforce. And getting into sports, French sprinter Matt Abdallah Quanta, who competed for France at the Paris Olympics, was suspended by the National Federation on Wednesday for publishing comments inciting hatred on social media. French Minister of Sports Amélie Oudéa-Castéra said on X that the French athletes or Athletics Federation president confirmed to me that he had suspended the athlete, contacted the public prosecutor as well as the disciplinary commission on the federation. She described Conta's messages and posts targeting Israel in particular as shocking as they are unacceptable. The messages have since been deleted. After deactivating his X account, Koyunta reactivated to post an apology where he introduced himself as French, Muslim, and proud. People had fun digging through my tweets and taking some of my comments out of context, portraying me as anti-white, anti-French, anti-Semitic, and so on, said the 29-year-old who ran in the men's and mixed 4x 400-meter relays at the 2024 Olympics. I sincerely apologize if anyone felt offended. I am against genocides and any form of racism or injustice, and I don't think I need to prove how much I love my country, he said. And that is it for Cool News at 4. As always, you can get in touch with us at tvhthephilippines.news@gmail.com. And join us again for more latest news headlines later with Cool News at 6 and Cool News Prime Time at 9. Until then, I am Pyro, and after this bulletin, you will continue to hear Word FM Manila right here on Cool FM during our limited operations. With that, once again, I'm Pyro. Good afternoon.